What's up, everybody? Welcome to the other side of the ball, episode 135, play off week. We don't have games this Sunday. It's Memorial Day weekend, and we always give our folks the day off for the weekends. Playing in the background is games from this last week, and in the foreground is our favorite quarterback slash commentator slash all around villain, Mr. Corey Handsome Hammond.
Well, thanks for having me, Derek. And we got the lo-fi music going, really chill this weekend. Coming up is going to be a holiday weekend, so that's great. We got the old white on white matchup. Gotta love the coordination from the Heathens and the Silk City, and nothing more relaxing than the lo-fi music and a massacre on the screen to our collective rights.
Well, I can't change the game. It's just the first one that came up in the
No,
playlist.
just
So,
leave it. Leave it. I'm sure. Listen, there will be some pop plays. I'm sure. Not this one from Trey Wingo. I know his name's not Trey, but we call him that. But how goes it on your side of the old United States? Well, United for now. How goes it over there?
it's pretty straightforward. No real upsets all season long. The Gold did get a victory over the Hunters. I don't know that would necessarily be considered an upset because both teams hadn't done much this season. The game was played evenly and won in the very last second of the game. And outside of that, it's just been chalk every single game,
Yeah.
every single match. Blowouts when it was anyone playing the Insomniacs or Sick, and even blowouts when Sick played the Insomniacs. So if you were a betting man and you had taken the favorite every time, you'd be a rich man and winning 0.07 cents per dollar bet because of how easily those games have been to call, aside from the one Gold versus Hunters. Now, going into the playoffs, I don't see much different in Gold versus Insomniacs, which is our one of our matchups, but Stealth versus Sick with it could be something, right? We don't know how good the Stealth have gotten over this time frame. They've had a couple weeks off to practice. They had a bye week going to this off week. They could have installed some things, sorted out some things, maybe defined who that uh, real starting quarterback is. Because as they say in the old country, if you got more than one quarterback, you have no quarterbacks. So maybe they come out of this thing with one guy at the helm, ready to rock and roll. But everybody plays everything close to the vest, so lots to discuss in the West. How about out east? You guys had the first round of the playoffs, and I don't know that it necessarily went chalk in one location, and one maybe got close to not going chalk. But I'd love to hit your input.
Well, I think it went chalk, but there was a little bit of a surprise situation here and there. The two games that really weren't close were the game that I was involved in, Hawks BIC. Credit the Hawks guys that did show up. I have to give a big shout out to two of my guys who were really not only statistical standouts all season for the Old Bridge Hawks in Delron Simmons, the rookie running back, rookie adjacent. He did have a couple appearances 2 years ago, but relatively minimal at that. So maybe we'll sneak him by with the lax rules and ridiculous outcomes we see on postseason awards. Anyway, we could talk about that. Let's say in a couple of months after we decide this whole tournament thing. So Delron Simmons standout. I think he was close to 100 yards total offense. Had the touchdown, really tough touchdown, especially with the overwhelming, advantage the BIC defense seemed to have, especially in the trenches all game. But also Zuriel Wright, who started off the season, figuring out how to use his speed and open field talent. Kind of settled in, almost set a record for catches in a game against the Patterson U 3 weeks ago. If I knew, I would have definitely stat padded at the last drive of the game. I
Right?
was unaware of both the fact that I got over 300 yards and that he was 2 catches away from breaking the record. So bad on me. I will say, for certain reasons, I may or may not have been able to, just keep track of the specific counts of yards gained and receptions had by one receiver. Um,
Were you
but
keeping a running tally in your head, or did you have like a little
no,
notepad and
that's what
just
I'm saying. I mean, I had other shit that I was dealing with, and
well, like a D
one.
line that was trying to kill you?
Well, I would say, if you've seen the A7FL short of the 6'7" guy. Now I don't even remember his name, but the clothesline early in the game certainly made the decision making part of the process, play in, play out, especially on offense. But enough about the Hawks. Out, gone, fishing, bye. But those two guys definitely do deserve a lot of credit, especially Delron, because he not only was the kind of bell cow workhorse at the running back position, really took it upon himself to play a very physical brand of in the box defense. And just ask RTC, if you're a running back asked to be the physical ball carrier in between the tackles and also play defense, it takes a really special talent. So I do want to give him credit, and also make sure that if anybody had just seen him week one, in which his name was Holato Jones for whatever reason, it is Delron Simmons. Um, and Yeah, BIC really took care of business there. The other game that went completely as dusty as chalk can get is the game that we just had on the screen next to us. I think the narrative there is twofold. Shout outs to the Heathens for a an inaugural season. Among the best inaugural seasons I think we've seen from teams that aren't, from a brand new division, right?
Right,
When the Force kind of came out and won the division for Vegas as an expansion team, that's kind of a different story because everyone was an expansion team.
right.
For the Sin City Chaos, their expansion year, still a really young, forming division. That's not the case for what the Virginia Heathens faced. And when they did have Ryan Burroughs, known as Captain America,
Well,
um,
let's put a pin in that because I don't want to get off of that. Actually, keep going because I'm taking notes and things I want to come back to. Keep going. Finish your
okay,
thought. I'm
sure.
sorry.
So for the Heathens, I think kind of in memoriam on their season, really they went as their quarterback went. So in the games that I saw them actually was able to put eyes on them. Shout outs to Matt Fabian over there. Matt and Rob fused, and we can see the glorious everything there. No words can truly describe what we just saw on
Cracking me
camera
up.
there. But with the Heathens, I think the games that I saw were head to head. Ryan Burroughs was the quarterback all game. He's got a really unique style as a rugby first type of guy. He's always willing to pitch it back, and in really dramatic rugby fashion, which is uh is hard to deal with as a defense, and the Hawks saw that up close and personal. But the other games that I saw the Heathens actually compete. One was when the Hawks went down to face the Buzz down in Baltimore. I saw the Heathens play the Watchmen. No Ryan Burroughs, absolutely no chance the Heathens had at the end of the day, even though, they did seem to be a competitive team. They beat the Buzz head to head. They were more competitive when Burroughs was there week one against the Watchmen. When Ryan Burroughs is not there for the Heathens, and it's U.S. agent, not Captain America. I struggled during the game, but thanks, shout outs to Cole Gardella for fixing. What's up, Moses Smith?
What's
Um,
up, Moses?
Cole Gardella helped me out with the Marvel Phase whatever 11 we're in, reference to the Wyatt Russell character. When they don't have Captain America, Steve Rogers Captain America in there, and I didn't see any Falcon version, the Anthony Mackie Captain America. They went straight complete replica, a guy who was in there fighting. Got to give him credit for going against the tough animals defense. But I'll say this: if my old and decrepit body can get 20 for 30, 270 on the animals with my roster, you want a little bit more in a 53 to nothing blowout. But I think the story of that game again, is not about the team that has gone fishing. It's about the team that showed up without their all-star, all everything, Mr. Marketable quarterback, and kind of put a spank down and a stamp on the early part of these playoffs by saying emphatically, look, we are not just David Tender and company. The Silk City Animals are a team that's full of talent on all three phases of the game. And that's why, whether they had a tight end at quarterback, CJ, a seasoned veteran at quarterback, or they were on the defensive side of the ball, or returning punts that magically bounced and stayed in, they were able to get whatever they
Yeah, that was
wanted
wild.
all game. Yeah, that was a cursed wind slash spin on the ball situation where if it just dies right at the sideline like that, you know, shout outs to my guy Dean who went ice skating, but it's not a good look, especially when you're allowed to throw it out of bounds. But I will say this: throwing into that wind, 25 miles an hour, Asbury Park sometimes a mess. Those games, chalk all the way. I filibustered enough. Now, do you want to come back to, you said you were taking notes. What
Yeah,
did you
so
see from those games?
there's a few things that from both sides of that specific game I'd like to drill down on, and both regarding their superstar quarterbacks. And I'm going to start with the superstar quarterback, Mr. Marketable. Uh, don't want to say chicken because the dude is straight beast, David
Yeah,
Tender, right? And how he compares to the quarterback who brought the animals out of obscurity in the first place 2 seasons ago, Quattro Huffin.
Quattro Huffman. Yeah,
And if you remember, that year, Silk was being discussed as one of the top teams in the East. They weren't being discussed that way last season, but Huff laid the foundation for them to actually get this new squad, get these young bucks, and create this new core. That David Tender has come in and assumed the responsibility of the quarterback position and done some would say, a better job than Huff at this point,
yeah,
driving that team. But I want us to spin backwards and think and remember when we ended the 2023 season, the Silk Sea Animals were 5-1.
the
We
regular
end,
season. Yeah.
yeah, we end the regular season this year. The Silk Sea Animals 5-1, and that begs the question. I mean, David Tender's great. He's probably going to win MVP if Sterry doesn't this season. We can make a case for some guys in the West, but the games haven't been competitive out there, so I don't see anybody giving the West any MVP nods unless that vote gets taken after the playoffs get done and it ends up being an all West championship or something along those lines. And there's a couple stamps put on those games. But who's better at quarterback for Silk City, Huff or David Tender? I'll say a healthy Huff or David Tender. And if because all things almost even, David Tender seemed like a more formidable foe at quarterback, except for now he's injured as well. Who do you take in that scenario? A healthy Huff in 23 or a healthy David Tender in 25? Who's your guy if you're trying to run that team?
Well, I'll say this about the 23 Huff. Okay, so you look at his actual passing statistics; they pale in comparison to what David Tender has been able to do in 2024 and 25. But we have to remember the 2022 Animals were 0-7 and a bad 0-7.
Right.
They were a Boston Omegas level 0-7, where it's not, it's not like, for instance, certain teams that are competitive don't get blown out, make it to the fourth quarter week in and week out. I would even say last year's Renegades that I was a part of, we really only missed the fourth quarter in one game, and
Mhm.
that was when we were down in Baltimore with only like nine guys. um, 0-7 is 0-7. Let's not try to sugarcoat not being able to win a game. But the way that the Animals lost all seven of those games in 2022, they not only weren't competitive, by the end of the season, guys had to play completely out of position because people on their roster completely just quit, just the entire culture of football. I don't even think they even wanted to play flag or Madden after that. That's how bad that Animals team was
Gave up the
going.
sticks.
They sold their systems. Let's say they went back to Dreamcast and Game Boy Advance to play things like Zelda and completely non-related sport. They didn't even want to play 2K. It was so bad. They wanted to just avoid all competition. That's I'm exaggerating, but that's how bad that Animals team
What?
was. Fast forward the year later, Huff did a lot of similar things that will mention when we talk about David Tennant. Huff brought in talent because when Huff goes somewhere, people want to play with him, right? That is a big part of who he is. He is still active and alive in the flag, kind of culture here in the Northeast. So he has guys that he plays with on his Spartan teams, on his U flag teams that wanted to join him for the Silk City Animals. But he also was a full-time two-way player for that team. So even though a mediocre, some would say, quarterback in Corey Hammond for the Boston Omegas outpassed him in yardage for the Animals. See there. Um, he was the
Shameless
MVP.
self plug. Obviously, it's good. Let's go.
Whatever. I just
No, I love it, bro. It's on brand.
what's nice about it, it's twofold. It serves the me being able to brag about myself constantly, which fits the character, but it also is a good, it's a good way to give people a little perspective in statistically where Huff was in 2023. But the reason he won MVP is because he elevated a roster that was bottom basement, as bad as any team in the league next year. Now I wouldn't say that Silk City team was a championship contender for real, but they were serious. They really were a tough out. And even in their playoff game against the Watchmen, which has become a theme, they only lost by one score and were very competitive in every single game because when you have a quarterback like Huff, he is an equalizer. He is an elevator of talent around him. I would say that is the story of Huff in 2023. But the David Tender that we've seen over the past two seasons, last year was a similar story to the 2020. Yo, what's up, Kino? We'll talk about you soon, I'm sure. Last year, for the 2024 Animals, shout outs to Denzel Daniels as well. Yes, and of course that is part of the character, my friend. You've come to know me relatively well, and we even have private conversations when I'm out of character. But Tender did a lot of the same things that Huff did in the intangibles, bringing guys in. That Animals team, we had no, kind of understanding of who they would be or expectations of what they could do because they lost the guy that kind of elevated them the year before. Beginning of the season, David Tender was not even the starting quarterback when he
Right.
got the reins, completely took over the team. The quarterback that started that season, David Rios Bebo, was kind of completely phased out. And when he had a chance to play BIC, when David Tender was not available, the Animals became the Animals of 2022 again. But I'll say this about what David Tender has done in the 2025 season, and it's legitimized the team that in 2024 was fun to watch and was a darling of the league. Just ask Big Brother and Traitors alum Dan Giesling, who would
Right.
watch us on the Creative Sports Network.
And
His,
said he wanted to buy the team.
his favorite team was the Animals, and it wasn't because the Animals were a dominant team. It was because they were probably the most fun team to watch. All of their games were competitive because their defense was terrible.
Right.
And what Tender was able to do is even in situations where his team didn't necessarily have the better names on paper, his ability to throw off balance under pressure and still dead eye accurate,
And
red
completely
dead.
off schedule. Like it wasn't
Yes.
called plays except for what they started doing in that BIC championship game. But go
And,
ahead. I'm
and some
sorry.
of those plays are called, but when you get the pressure, now you have to completely ad lib. And when he's throwing those crossing routes perfectly accurately with guys in his face and he's off his back foot, in a perfect world, he has a pocket. Maybe he throws those a little earlier. It's not necessarily completely off schedule because it's not the run back and forth with the chicken with your head cut off, as we saw from a recent commenter and a guy that we're literally watching to the screen on our right, and Keno Thomas unfortunately had to deal with time after time with what the Renegades were trying to do to him. Um, David Tender is also calling plays, in my opinion, because he also was able, even in situations where his offensive line wasn't that effective, he was calling run plays for Quanny Morgan that were getting chunk yardage every single time he would. Now let's fast forward to 25, and I know I've probably Corey countered into about a 30-minute conversation, so I appreciate the the leeway here.
Well, there's two
Um,
of us, bro. Somebody's got to fill.
that's my middle name, apparently. Well, that's one of my middle names. It's my christening name. You know, when I got confirmed or baptized or whatever. Shout outs to an American Pope, but Tender in 2025 added a legitimacy that brought in the rest of the roster that filled out. So you get guys like Trey Baskerville. You get the rest of those air quotes Philly guys that were exposed to the A7FL from watching their, friend and compatriot in flag, David Tender, kind of like elevate the profile, at least in those guys' opinion, of what this league could be. And it's interesting because the influence of David Tender doesn't even stop at his own team. Shout outs to Bobby Newman, my guy. Oh man, I feel so bad. I gave him a shovel pass. That was the end of his day. So I will personally take credit for that. My bad, Bobby. And I missed you on a bunch of wide open opportunities as well. But good to see my guy in the chat, ready to check me wherever I go a little off script or off kilter. We might be suffering from similar symptoms. Let's just say, Bobby, my guy. Um, but look at the team to the right of us in white, another group of mostly flag guys that may or may not have been influenced by seeing a guy that they play consistently in David Tender have success and get a lot of attention and become Mr. Marketable.
But look,
And
it also could be the other guy I'm talking to right now saying flag guys can't compete in this league for a while, and
well, we can
everyone
talk.
wanting to
We'll
see.
talk. I'm sure we'll talk. We'll talk about the flag guys to my
We'll bring
right.
that back though, because that's definitely a conversation for today.
Well, I want to talk about the flag guys to my right and how a team that when you look at the screen should be dominating physically against this Ohio team did
Yeah.
not. Soft, soft,
Well, you also got
soft.
to remember this Ohio team, when fully stacked and fully prepared, we've all heard people who care about this league, who watch them day in and day out, say that they have a competitive element to them. They just need
Absolutely.
to all show up and all be on the same page. And looks like they did that for this game. And if not for a couple bad bounces, this game might have ended very differently for a Renegades team that a lot of people said might be equal to the top teams of this league because of how they lost the two games they lost. Right. So a lot to discuss, a lot to unpack, but look, to stick with the conversation, David Tender versus Huff, and who elevated the animals the best, or if today you were to start a year with one of those two at quarterback at healthy, because both of them got
Yeah.
hurt while playing for Silk City.
Could you give me
Who,
could
who
you give me prime Huff, like the same age
yeah,
Huff?
definitely. Absolutely. Prime
Because
Huff.
that's the thing. What I would
Yeah.
say is that the job of David Tender, and what he's been able to do right now, uh, eh, talking with Huff and being close to Huff and competing against him year in year out, watching him, calling his games. That's the best quarterback we've seen as far as a career in this league, period. Right. But at this point in his career, I think he is ready to kind of, pass the torch. And I think the guy that he's passed the torch to first was Sterry. Now the guy that's trying to aim for that, torch or to be one of the guys that holds it is the guy that we're talking about in David Tender. And I think the way that Huff does it now kind of is more of the cerebral way that when in Huff's prime, he would do it a lot more like David Tender does now. I think it's interesting because those guys do have a lot of very similar skill sets when you really break down not the way in which they do it, but what they actually are doing, right? Um, I'll join the show. Give me some time. Nice. But I think the interesting thing for me when we're trying to break down who's better is in this situation talking about the animals whose team was worse. And I would say and call me a BDE guy, right? A before the
Before
David
David
era guy.
era, right?
I think that Huff elevated the animals in 2023. That's a Dion Fox sighting, right? I wanted to
It
talk
is.
about that. Yeah,
Actually, Deion
that's
Fox played the majority of the game at quarterback for Sickwood.
so that's interesting in a lot of ways, but I think that's awesome for, and we'll talk about that soon too. I think, hopefully, I would like to. I'm sure you'll allow me, but
Definitely.
so I think that Huff elevated the animals more because the foundation that Huff laid for the animals allowed for the emergence of the David Tender, Manny Diaz, Quani Morgan, allowed for the arrival of eventually Trey Baskerville, Amari Thomas, IG Live, KP, who, Manny Diaz has been the number one guy. KP actually might have more yards because defenses are so focused on number two out in the routes. Um, but I also do think that when both guys are totally, bought in and ready to play, at least where they're at right now in their careers, obviously the younger player is the guy that you would want to take. Yeah, and I think Zelly puts it, he puts it more succinctly here. If Huff stays with the animals, there would be no David Tender. Um, but what's interesting is I think David Tender, when he first came to this league, was his first ever appearance was on a 3-on-1 return. So I think he could have found a role doing the things that he can do with his legs. But that's one of the reasons that makes him such a dangerous player is I don't know if there's a more accurate passer with pressure in his face than David Tender, maybe in the history of our league. And that's me not being hyperbolic. I think that when I really look at the film and break it down, there's only a couple of guys that have faced pressure like that and have been as successful as he has. Because most of the guys that dominate this league in the air, whether it's Sterry Codrington, Quattrell Huffin, a guy from your side of the I was gonna say pond, but there's no pond in between anymore. That was
The big river.
65 million years ago. There was the Eastern Seaway in the middle of the country.
Right.
Um, but Scott Hamilton and even Jeremy Geary, when those guys dominated this league in the years that they did, they're not getting touched. They're not getting tons of pressure up, up the middle, over the side. Every single play is I have to scramble to find the opening to get the throw off. Would be a David Tender just on a different team. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Draco, who may or may not be big bravado Wilkerson. I don't know.
Right. So
Uh,
just rolling back though. So your opinion is you think because of what Huff brought and the elements that he brought and how he actually elevated Silk from out of nowhere to be a contender, and David, oh, kind of the Steve Kerr to the Mark Jackson, taking what was already looking like it was going to be great and putting the finishing touches on it to make it great, type situation. Mark Jackson had the tougher road and did an amazing job, but Steve Kerr is getting all the shine for it now, right? I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, well, and if Mark Jackson as a coach had won championships with another roster and then went back to that roster after as a coach, then it would be the perfect example. But
Sure,
call
but he
call it
played
a
for the
little
Knicks,
bit.
so that's not possible.
Yeah, exactly. But call it a little bit of a BDE bias, and that sounds like a super pause for everybody. But just buy the shirt and enjoy your life. Um, William Carswell, you made the top 50 with only two attempts at for the goal at returns and two touchdowns. So I hope you continue your efficiency with the Insomniacs. That was a good pickup. But listen, call me nostalgic, call me biased. I think that when you really break it down, it's hard to say that going from 0-7 to 5-1 in a regular season and becoming a team that at least competed with the team that eventually won the Northeast in the playoffs that year, because the Watchmen were the representative from the Northeast that year. Um, that's a better job than even David Tender has done this year.
Well, look,
Because
and I'll break it down a little further because I there's some things about Huff's game that is not an element of David Tender's game. And you mentioned it earlier when we were talking about Ryan Burrows, and that is the pitchback and the open field magicianship versus being able to just throw a dime on the spot. It's throwing
right.
dimes forward and or backward, which is something that element that Huff brings to the team that I've not seen Tender master yet. Now, I'm not saying he won't. He just hasn't yet. And if he does, then he might be on that Mount Rushmore of past A7FL and future A7FL quarterbacks, where Huff currently obviously holds a place.
Well, and Huff when he's with the Patterson U, like the Patterson U, not what they became this year, but the full roster with all of the the talent and aura
Not
that came
not the
around them.
Schnoo.
No, not that. That was even just like 2, 3 guys. It wasn't even like a whole thing. And yeah, you it's actually already past 9 p.m. by the way, Eastern Standard Time. So for me, shout outs to this guy. Say what's up.
Oh, hey, buddy.
This is Deacon James.
Deacon. That is the greatest name, man. That you picked future quarterback or future defensive end names for your guys. I love it. What hat are you wearing?
Yeah.
Was that a Pittsburgh
I don't even
Penguins
know if
hat?
that's English. But so so you got me off track. I don't even know what we're talking about. Oh, when Huff plays quarterback for the U in his prime, he's playing fast break point guard.
Right.
He's out there running Mike D'Antoni's Corey dad. Yeah, that's me. Let me talk though. I'm doing a thing. You can watch me on YouTube later with Danny Go and Dougie. Um, the way that Huff does that pitchy back thing, it's because of that elite talent around him. He's playing fast break offense, and he's getting the ball in playmakers' hands on the trail. Right? It's not a football thing; it's a basketball thing. David Tender to me has really turn that light back on. He really played. That's off. This is what you have to look forward to.
Oh, dude, I'm look. It's happening now. Mine's only 18 months. He's already
There
got a
you
hold of
go.
everything. Yeah.
Well, listen.
Yeah.
Once they get mobile, then they're doing stuff. Um,
Yeah. We'll get into that later.
David Tender does not have the Patterson. Now he has a great roster, and they proved that the Animals do have a great roster so far. But in the playoffs in Week 1 against the Heathens, we'll see how they do. Um, in their matchup against the Baltimore Watchmen. But the U roster is a little bit more stacked because it wasn't just the number one guys on the depth chart. It was number 1, 2, and 3 guys on the depth chart at every position could potentially score from anywhere. And what Huff did better than anybody in our league is get the ball to those guys' hands in a position where they can make a play. And that to me is kind of the difference in the prime Huff versus what we've seen so far from Tender. But listen,
Hey,
you got
quick.
David Tender on your roster. You got a chance this year at least to potentially win the whole thing. And
I'd say any year. He's that kind of good. I think we need to give David Tender. He's been getting his
well,
flowers
last
all
year they went.
season.
To be clear, last year they were 0-2 in the playoffs, which is a
Right, first
record
team
that
to ever
nobody
do that in the history of playoffs. Right.
ever.
Real quick, Derek Duncan, Las Vegas and division. Corey Hammond out of New Jersey division, filling in for Dub and Chris on the other side of the ball. In an off week, we call it the play off week. Vacillating about who could be, who was, and all the things that is fun to talk about when we don't have games coming up this weekend. Gives us an opportunity to drill down on some of the big playmakers and do some fantasy stuff. So, Corey, thanks for that take and opinions, and everyone who is on us, the 17 of you who are currently watching. where it records you. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Please get in the chat. Let us know if there's anything you want to talk about. But I want to stick with the quarterback and the pitching back part of things and touch on Ryan Burrows. I got confirmation that Ryan Burrows, Captain America, is not just Captain America, he's captain of the American
Yeah,
rugby team. Like
yeah.
legit USA rugby, the actual captain of that team. That's wild. Like we talk every time I'm in a chat when someone we have a viral clip, it's always, oh, it's just rugby. Until someone like me challenges anyone who says that, like, hey, get your rugby guys, come play against our guys. We'll see what's up. No one ever responds back in any way, shape, or form because they're probably terrified of what they might get themselves into. And they say it's just rugby. And then we got who arguably is the best rugby player in America playing in the A7FL on a 2-14. So, but he's playing football now. I'm sure if we were all trying to play rugby, they'd kick our ass, and if they're trying to play football, we kick their ass. But it's very interesting to consider the type of elite athlete at the quarterback position that Ryan Burrows is, and the record that they were able to amass. I mean, obviously, most of those wins with him, and most of the losses without him. But still interesting to think about what the future of A7FL looks like with rugby guys coming into the league with the Heathens team that I thought was built mostly around rugby guys, but didn't know it was the captain of USA Rugby. What say
Well, and
you?
it's really just him that's the rugby guy. The rest of the
Okay.
guys are guys that do play A7FL. Guys that were on
Well,
the
that's on
HUDs.
me, man. They had a bunch of white guys, so I figured they played rugby.
The captain of the American rugby team is Ryan Burrows. The captain of the Heathens is Rastaman Flash or Rastaman Flash.
Okay.
If you're eating oxtail regularly, and that's not even a Jamaican food, but you know what I mean. That is Charles Sharp Jr. That's his team. So uh, you know, my thing is with the Ryan Burrows and with a lot of the guys that are kind of, they dip their toe into the A7 thing, but they have other things going on, which happens with whether it's flag or semi-pro or whatever. Ryan Burrows, if he committed 100% to the A7FL, would be a difference maker. But to be clear, week one, Baltimore Watchmen, 38-12, with him in there the whole game. So it's still not, he's not the difference maker that guys like David Tender or Sterry Codrington are yet, but he certainly is a factor in their offense that can give them that. One of the things that I was saying during the game is what he provides for them is a way to stay ahead of the sticks. Because even if they call pass play, pass play, pass play, he's the type of physical runner that he can get 2, 3, 4 yards and stay ahead of the sticks so they're not facing
And
like
then
they
pitch it when you're not expecting it, right? Because that's what he's used to. He's built for it.
and when I've seen him pitch it, I have not seen the ratio you would expect on turnovers, which is huge if you're going to play that style. But again, it's not the same thing that Huff was doing because Huff is interesting when he does those pitches because it's the unselfishness or
Right.
the gregariousness. Everybody that voted for Trump, look that up. You definitely need a thesaurus for that.
It's traditionally
Maybe a
talkative,
dictionary.
but we'll take it.
Um, so he's Huff is just in the middle of a play that he could score on, and he's like, it's your turn, and that's just a ridiculous level of of mastery of our game, and some would say not a fair roster to roster comparison of a lot of the games that they were in, especially in those years. It's kind of the 2021 Patterson U, they had a lot of things similar to the way that the Insomniacs looked this year. But I think, in those two games, the Animals, Heathens, BIC, Hawks, I think we pretty much covered all that we could. And then if we want to kind of break into the Keno Thomas talk, the Renegades talk, and then the unfortunate, because everybody wanted to see it, and they're somehow trying to blame Ryan DePaul and Matt Ryan for it not being aired because they're ignorant and don't have an idea of anything that goes on, probably in any aspect of life. We a little bit got robbed by the DMV division's incompetence because that Watchmen U game, from all accounts, could have been one of the games of the year.
Yeah, game of the ages, man. Anytime it's a 1 point game and we don't have it on air at all, like that that makes no sense to me. I think RTU was out there trying to do some streaming, but he's playing the game at the same time. So who
Bro,
knows what
bro,
actually.
when RTU streams, it's a up and down video, but it's shot horizontally, and it's mostly of the sideline
Yeah.
as he is talking to his teammates and
Well, I
friends.
didn't say
And
it was good, bro. I'm just saying we had some visibility of what could have happened. So while we're on that note, if anyone's paying attention, I am looking for two uh, hoodcasters for next weekend. I didn't say broadcasters. I said hoodcasters. I'm looking for two people who know this sport, who want to have some fun, be on a broadcast, unfiltered, no holds barred, just letting everybody have it how you want on behind a pay-per-view wall, so they can watch the games from Vegas during this process. Something
oh,
that we're throwing out on our new channel to try to drive some viewership to the Vegas division and what we're doing out there. Uh, I'm hoping to get maybe someone like Loud to jump in and be my guy. Uh, we'll see how that works out. But if you are a hoodcaster that thinks you know this sport well enough and the guys out of Vegas well enough to carry a broadcast, please hit me up. I would absolutely love to talk to you about it, get you in the broadcast seat. You can do it from home. You can do it live, whatever makes the most sense for you. But we'll get you set up and do this thing hood style and get a different level of criticism and a different perspective in many different ways out of that
and
broadcast.
you don't have to be professional enough to avoid that $10,000 fine if you go a little explicit, let's say.
I want you to be. I want you to be fined if that were an option. We are pay per view, explicit label all over everything, NC-17, not rated. Like we're going all the way in. Whatever it is you want to say, want to do behind a paywall. So we're good.
And they, I think it would already, and no disrespect to my guy Jeremiah Reeves and what the Gold have been able to accomplish, continuing to build and build, but it may actually be NC-17 for the and a mature rating for the bloodshed in that first game. I wish everybody to make it home safe, and with all their limbs and organs intact, but that could get NC-17 on its own. That's
Yeah.
interesting
So
because I think when me and Matt and Rob talk about funny things, one of the things that came up is when we first became a group, there was that kind of meme guy that would call, like, just on like Instagram reels or whatever kids watch nowadays, but it would be that explicit announcer, and he'd be like, it would be announcer voice and be like, watching baseball, holy shit, he just beat the shit out of that ball. And I think there's definitely there is definitely a niche for that. So I know that Big Bravado Wilkerson over there is not suitable for work in a lot of different aspects. But I think you might be busy, Draco, unless you're going to let your
well,
backups
hang on.
get a
Let me let
little.
me let me show you his comment. It says as follows.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If he wants to let his backups get a little burn,
Well, he did that
um,
last week by showing up middle of the second quarter and leaving middle of the third quarter, right? So
well, he once was quoted on the 3-on-1 podcast. Shout outs to my brethren, and maybe one day. And shout outs to Keno Thomas's mom, who I spoke to after the game, had a nice conversation with. I'm not gonna go into the specifics of what she said. It was a great conversation, and I had a lot of I did enjoy it, but I did not ask her if I could broadcast it. But I will say this: in the 3-on-1 podcast, there was some talk of like that. So, Draco back in the day saying very similar things. So it would be
look,
interesting.
For me, it was an opportunity. I'm talking to the guys who are running our channel, and they're like, "Hey, are you going to be set to go this Sunday?" I'm like, "Yeah, but who's going to pay to watch something that we advertise for free all over the place for no reason? Like, you're literally going to have to do your own advertising and pull in your own group of folks that you're going to get to pay for this thing, or people are just going to go watch it for free. And if they do a simple Google search, every ad that I put out that says it's free to watch it is going to come up. What can we do to give somebody something that they might want to pay for?" And the answer was, look, we have so many people in our league that do these lives that get a ton of attention, a ton of views, and people love listening in. Let's marry that content or that spirit with our content and have something that's worth potentially someone maybe dropping $5 for.
Well, I would like to see how that goes and who ends up being the guy. But like what I was trying to get to, and I kind of almost lost lost my train of thought. Draco on the 3-on-1, BBW on the Draco one, RTC on the 3-on-1, whatever his name is. He said he was a huge fan of Courage, so seeing him show up in the second quarter is just an homage to the once great Brooklyn, New York product for the BIC, who would never saw a first quarter in which he desired to be on time for.
It looks
Um,
still great. I bet you he shows up in Vegas to play the two seed. I can virtually guarantee that's going to happen.
don't ever count out a Courage getting in when he needs to and doing something special. That's for sure. But I think for this weekend's games, not that have passed, the
Mhm.
games that have already been played. I was drinking. The interesting games were the other games, and I think there's not much specifically to say about the Watchmen U other than two really definitely contending teams. The U, when they don't have Huff, they're still trying to figure certain things out. They have a bunch of quarterbacks in Butler and Ream that can get the job done and are effective at times, but none of them are Huff. But to see that game was as competitive as it was, and that the sportsmanship, which is I think a huge key for that type of game, the sportsmanship was there. It was, from all accounts, it was still heated. There was still a ton of guys getting in people's face. Like you said, like you said about the pay-per-view games coming up. And I would say to the fans of this show, just get your credit card ready. You probably paid for something much less entertaining, and you probably paid much more money for it. So just be ready in 2 weeks for that. Um,
All
the
right,
the
real quick. Let's take a quick pause. I want to give a shout out to Travis, now Moose and not Zaza anymore. Gallardo, thank you for always being here for us. Can't wait to see the Florida division to come back. Would love to get your take on what these games were or are about to be that are being advertised out of the
Yeah,
Florida division.
I saw Gallardo on an active roster.
Is it
So
Gallardo or Gallardo? I mean, he is in Florida. It's probably Gallardo.
I'm seeing two L's. I'm just gonna go with my obviously Hispanic roots,
Yeah,
and
let's get
that's a
ethnic.
Y.
Yeah, right. All right. Shout out to Ashmore Media. Appreciate you being on with us, photographer extraordinaire Steve Ashmore. Shout out to Jason Brown, Insomniacs, great organizer, and just a good dude all around. We said what's up to William already. Shout out to Will Franklin, head ref. He's in for that. Shout out to Matt Ryan clocking in. And I believe we touched everybody here. Uh, uh, Thank you very much for allowing me that time. Thank you for everyone being on. Truly appreciate you rocking in with us. Keep liking, keep commenting, share if you can. Thank you so much for being with us today. All right, Corey. So we touched on uh, the broadcast that might be out of Vegas. We touched on uh, quarterbacks in the East that are being compared to the greats and what could be for rugby versus A7FL. I want to segue that into another type of football that you have very little appreciation for. Well, actually, you probably have appreciation for it, but not for what it means into A7FL and the type of person or athlete that plays that game and the flag guys who are in our league versus what's going to happen in 2028 and all the hubbub around the NFL players being allowed to play in the Olympic team for USA and other teams around the globe.
Yeah. So let's start because this is a good segue. The best game that was visible this weekend, in my opinion, was the QC Crush, the artist formerly known as the Sin City Chaos and Covington Heist, versus the artists formerly known as TMU Flag and Dondre Haynes and Kyle Ward. Um, I, listen, I have this ongoing thing with Flag, and let me just give you a little bit of the kind of behind the behind the character animosity. Um, One of the things that I find most fulfilling about the game of football is the requirement of full physicality and the way in which that has in many eras, maybe not even this era, or and everything's changing for a lot of different reasons,
Oh
but
my
I'm
god, hang
also
on a
just
second. I just realized we never moved the goalpost back in this game. Like it's literally right on the goal line. Someone could have broke their neck. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, that's fine. It's that's why you watch film, right? You watch film to get better.
Ugh.
And that's your job, is to set up the field. So listen, you watch film to get better. You just got better. Um, who's Jason? Jason's horrible at a
Jason
football.
Brown.
Oh, anyway.
The
Uh,
literally the best organizer in all
yeah,
of
yeah,
A7FL, if you ask me.
it's tongue in cheek. Yeah, I get
Yeah,
you.
yeah, for sure.
Um, so full contact football allows for the loudest among those taking performing in the game, myself included, right? To have to answer to the words that they say, right? So when you play a physical brand of football and you're a defensive end or you're a wide receiver or you're a corner or you're a running back or you're a 38-year-old quarterback that stays in the pocket, when you talk shit, you have to get on the field and answer to the things that you've said. And I think that that's a very good way of kind of you know g checking what would otherwise be uh a shoot off the hip mouthy guy that's talking all this trash and doesn't have to answer for it. The problem that I have with the 7-on-7 culture that my son is in now, and a lot of, not all, but a lot of the flag culture, is there is a lot of talking with guys that never have to answer for the physicality. And when
Right.
you see some of the corners throw basically the biggest celebrations on 1st and 10 after an incompletion thrown way over their heads, getting in the face of a wide receiver of how much their mom is on their knees or something. The ridiculousness in which the competitive shit talk has evolved into this performative act that has to be so over the top that you could see it on screen, like in a game that where in flag, to be clear, no quarterback is going to get tackled, no running back is going to get tackled, and no corner has to tackle in the middle of the field. A lot of wide receivers, they come across the middle, they can catch the ball, jump ball, everything's great, feet land on the ground, and they may actually be down after the catch, but they never have to face the shoulder pads of a guy like Brian Dawkins, or even like a Ron Clark, or even like a Jeremy Reeves,
Right.
or even a Daniel Packer, right? Guys that will shut your mouth forcefully
True
and
play.
keep it closed, because guess what? The louder you talk, the wider the target is on your back. And that's how I've lived my career. And maybe it's a personal vendetta I have that flag guys get to avoid
Well,
that.
look, Corey, you're tough enough to say whatever it is you want. You've taken the worst beating out of anyone I've ever seen at the quarterback position in this league, and you always get back up, always, almost every time, standing back up and throwing a touchdown shortly thereafter, and will record all the stats and tell you what he did in a loss usually, but every game,
Yeah,
man. So kudos
recently
to
at
you.
least.
I mean, whether it's the character or not, you nailed what it is about Flag that makes it different. But I also want to touch on the things about Flag that make our contact play and the contact play of the NFL, a conversation when it comes to translating to playing flag at the national Olympic level.
Yeah.
And we've kind of had this conversation once before with who should be in. You know, the captain of USA flag is like, I deserve to be. He's 36 years old. By the time it hits there, he'll be 40. Chances are that's not happening. Guys they're talking about in the league right now, like Tyreek Hill, used to be maybe the fastest guy around. He'll be another 4 years older by the time, 2 years older by the time we hit there. Probably not going to work. But do you think that they're going to be any of the national flag guys, like a Mark Bagway, like guys from TMU, like guys from the Goonies and the Turtles out in Vegas, and like Sterry Codrington, who maybe would take a shot at trying to make that team and really have a chance of making it on that, or would want to? I mean, I would love to try for Olympic gold at anything. I could do it in talking. Maybe I could do it in organizing. Maybe I could do it in running a division of the A7FL. I could potentially win gold. Done that 2 years in a row. I
Yeah.
I, I would love to win gold for my country. Do you think these
Yeah.
A7 guys would try?
Well, and part of I think the reason that there's a conversation back and forth is the flag game does have its uniqueness, and guys that excel at flag specifically um, are definitely going to translate, right? So I think the main character in the the conversation of should it be flag guys or should it be the pros in the NFL is the guy Doucette. And when you watch his flag film, you can tell why he is an elite flag player. And as much as I hate on flag, you can see the skill set that a guy that excels in flag needs to be an excellent flag player. A lot of those skills will translate into all forms of football. Really, the only thing when you're watching a flag game that you're not going to find is that middle linebacker with the perpetual broken nose and the neck roll, right? You're not going to find those guys in those flag leagues,
Yep.
but you can see the influence even in the A7FL over the past I'd say about 4 or 5 years in the amount of speed, space, and overall athleticism in the what we would say is the skill positions,
And the dip, as Travis just brought up.
which is gross. And thank God people don't try that in the A7FL, but
Oh, they
whatever.
die.
Well, I mean, listen, if you did that, good for you. If it worked, like I've seen guys go over the top. It would be interesting if somebody could go underneath a diving tackler. I don't think we have anybody short enough in the league. I could make a joke
Zelly.
about him. What'd you say?
Zelly.
I was gonna go with a different insomniac, but I don't like to give that guy any more shit
I'm
because
just
I
saying, Zelly's got the leg power to do that at a short position and potentially actually.
I thought you were saying that he's the short guy. Well, we could say Woody Nash Charles from the Florida division. He's like
Yeah,
5'10".
for sure, and the
Um,
athleticism.
but
Shout out to Big Wood.
I think for me my hate for flag is also a bit. I recognize the the superior athleticism of a lot of those guys that are flag guys that come into our league. And there's a lot of guys that are football players, right? Like yourself and Chris Vera included, that play flag, but were football guys that just didn't have the opportunity to play A7. You ask a guy like RTC, does he enjoy flag? Absolutely. I'm sure he loves it. But when you ask him which brand of football he would prefer, he could say in the comments, Draco. Maybe he prefers as a physical running back, having the guys across from him have to bring him down physically. That might be a more enjoyable version of football. Or maybe, after years and years of dominating from the running back position, maybe he wants to be able to go to work on Monday without having to feel like he did after playing the Tampa Bay Nightcrawlers.
Well, I'll tell you, he's a hell of a lot more fun to watch in tackle and A7 style than he is in flag. Although he's fun to watch in flag, he is must see TV when you turn on and he's got the ball in the A7FL. So
Oh, absolutely.
it depends on what he wants for himself and what he finds most engaging. But what I'd like you and I to do is real quick, if we had to
Yeah.
pick a 5 man roster for a USA flag team out of the A7FL, and that means guys who have to be able to play both sides of the ball and be and excel at each position and have what it takes to track somebody down. Uh, who are you going with? I mean, I think my number one out the off the rip is Sterry because of what
Yeah,
he
you're gonna
did.
steal that.
Yeah, what he did in his professional career as a DB and how that's translated to who he is as a quarterback. I don't know that there's many people who have the pedigree of a Sterry Codrington when it comes to flag. And then Travis, obviously, throwing the obvious
Yeah,
one, the
you're stealing
guy,
the obvious one, right?
yeah, ranked number two last year in all of flag, Mark Bagway. So obviously, a guy that you would definitely want on that roster, definitely a two-way player. I would say on the same team and always name in the same breath, Logo Davis. We haven't heard a lot about out of him this season or the last, but guys who have played and still have the athleticism and the wherewithal. Those three, I think, are a lock, right? So
Yeah, and all three of those guys, they're the quintessential um utility guy. If you had and I would even add a guy like Huff into that situation, because if you have those guys on the roster, you can do the more ridiculous, like the things that would piss me off as a Clint Eastwood get off my lawn guy, right? If you're able to have those guys on your roster, you can, yeah. Travis Gallardo knows the guys, and so does Jason Brown, by the way. Um, but if you add a Huff in there, he's definitely a guy. But that's the name right there that dominates currently in flag that we may or may not know. Off the top of our head, that isn't a Vegas guy that we're about to mention, or one of the Tampa Bay Nightcrawlers, because Matt Riddick, the former um, Immortal, the Pennsylvania Immortal, he actually in the BDE era had the record for touchdowns, and it sounds like a fish story. So I have to ask some of those guys in the division to confirm it. But he had like 60 touchdowns one year in the A7FL, and
6-0.
yeah, it was cartoonish.
And not town beef, but A7.
In the year that they won in 2019, he took a step back. But in the other years in which there was more games in Pennsylvania, he had they were telling us that he had like an average of 2 3-on-1 returns for touchdowns, and then like 3 or 4 offensive touchdowns.
Yeah,
He
that was
also had
Ashanti. That was Ashanti Worthy when we found the league. That was his typical resume in
yeah, but if you look
2022.
yeah, but when you look at the stats of Ashanti Worthy and they break it down, it feels like that every time he touches the ball. But that was also, in my opinion, that was also a much more when Ashanti Worthy arrives on the scene, it's a much more competitive New Jersey Northeast Division. Pennsylvania was kind of suffering from what, and no disrespect, but some of the things that we say about the Ohio division, in which there was a class of the league, and then a whole bunch of Amazon drivers and FedEx, warehouse workers. And,
Why are you shitting on the Amazon driving warehouse workers, man? That's a great job for people to take in the off season because it keeps them in shape.
oh, for absolutely, but those guys chasing around guys like Matt Riddick, Ashanti Worthy, or Keno Thomas in the Ohio division, right? Or if we were to get a Danya Lyons or a Davik Clark or a Munchie out in those divisions,
Yeah,
it,
so and you
it
see
gets
that,
pretty ugly.
right? So we got the list of guys that have been thrown out there, but I wanted you and I to submit some other names as to think, do they fit in the honorable mention category or just below? Because I think a guy like Darren Palmer, who played DB at a D1 college and is a top wide receiver in our league and still can play the DB position, might rise up to the honorable mention category and being at least a first team alternate for me anyway, as I know his work ethic and I see what he does in the field when I would play with him with the Kings. So curious your thought,
Well, the
Jason's
only
thought
other
on Darren Palmer.
well, Darren Palmer is one of my favorite football players that I've ever met, so I would definitely include him on any list. Little, maybe not something that we talk about all the time is his intangibles are among the best in the league as well. That's important, especially if you're just creating a roster of just randoms. But I also think that some of the people that we would want to kind of include would be, and shout outs to my guy. I don't know if he would be the best of the best, but I just love the guy. So, the Scott McCorkle type of, let's play flag, but we need those guys in the trenches to play that defensive end position, and harass quarterbacks in a way that
Well, that's a good point.
is
Is it contact flag or is it non-contact?
I think they're doing the 9-man, if I'm not
No,
mistaken.
they're doing 5.
It's 5.
Yeah.
See, but that's the most bastardized version of football where centers are going out for passes and it just looks like it's just a
It,
clown
it's
show.
basketball on a field, which honestly I thought would be a great thing to potentially come up with a concept for indoor football on a basketball court. You can put that game on anywhere, 5-on-5.
Yeah, but I don't know. For me, I liked what and call me biased. I liked what the All Pro Jaffo said 4 years ago, and for me,
Travis says non-contact.
yeah, corny is what it is. It's unwatchable.
It's a skills
But
game. It's pylon.
well, but that's the thing. That then play ultimate frisbee. It's the same thing. It's just
But except for the
yeah. But if you
unit
want
you're
if
trying to
you
catch
want
stays on the player owner.
if you want football on a national stage, wouldn't you want the aspect of football that makes it the most popular sport in America and makes the Super Bowl the most watched entertainment entity in the world, other than the World Cup, which is only every 4 years or whatever. But for me, if you gave every single country an opportunity of playing A7, where you still have to play football, that to me would be the Olympic sport that I would think would
It would
get the
certainly make a hell of a lot more sense. However, they're trying to get the easy path in, and that one actually got the thumbs up because no one's going to die playing flag, right? You get a bunch of people playing A7 that have never played before against us, against our guys. It could get real
That's
ugly,
true. It
real fast.
if the dream team was a death match, the
Right.
basketball wouldn't have been spread as
I mean,
worldwide as it was.
let's just put it in perspective. An A7FL All Star team playing against another country's best athletes at that position.
Yeah,
It, oof, I
yeah,
mean
it would not
I
it
mean
would not work out.
the best
Um,
rugby player in America is not at the level of our top guys. So I mean that just gives you an idea of what we're talking about.
yeah, there's a dude in South Africa that I've seen is like 6'8", 270, runs like a 4'8", or whatever. But other than that,
Oh,
other than that,
whoa! Shout out
yeah,
to Kenny Mack in the chat. Hey
shout
guys,
out.
one more time. The 14 of you that are here, we've only got 4 likes on on this chat or on this podcast. Please reach up and hit that thumbs up button for us. Let's get a little activity on this thing. Show some love, or I'm inclined to think you're a hater, and I will make sure you get a 15-yard personal foul next time I see you.
or roast me, as Trey Robinson did with that beautiful visual of me.
Oh God,
Good for him. Good for him. I deserve it. I deserve it. I deserve all critiques and criticisms. But if it helps the channel out, hit it in the comments, especially
yeah. Well,
especially Kenny Mack,
I
who
mean,
I'm sure has something to say.
no one's fucking listening to us, dude. It's still at 4 likes. So I mean, there's
Well,
14
whatever.
people watching right now.
I
I
think
mean,
I think I think that's
one
the
person
that's
can
the
reach up and fucking do it.
That's the most egregious form of hate. Listen, I don't know who the fuck he is, but Harwin Snow, I'm sure he'll fucking press it later. Shout out to that fucking troll. What's up? Kennel9, do you work with Kenny Mack?
No, so Kennel Nine, a former player in the Las Vegas division, who moved out to Florida and was
Oh,
going
shit.
to be on the Florida squad that was going to travel to Vegas before it got shut down.
Yeah, that sucks.
I'm trying to remember his name right now. It's coming to me because we are actually business partners in a venture, and I don't know why I can't think of it right now. It's fucking the kennel thing got me fucked up.
Listen, that is a thing that happens to you when you're doing live broadcasting, and I don't think people give it enough credence.
I can
You
see
got
his
you got to
face.
find the words. You got
I
to
can
find the
see his
words.
face, but I can't say his name.
So here we'll go into it. So I think with the flag too, just to kind of finish off that conversation. I feel for the flag guys, and I would love to see flag guys that have been performers in our league find a way onto that national team, because that would be awesome. But I'll say this: if we're really fans of football and want the world to really, kind of,
Yes,
the game to
thank you.
expand.
Jason, he said Selly, Marcellus Bridges. That.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
The
Ugh.
comments will always help out.
There's
A brain
Ashmore with
fart.
the government name, just like I did. My bad, Selly.
Oh, I remember Marcellus Bridges. He was
Yeah.
number 88 or something, right? 86. He's a wide
Uh,
receiver.
he played
Wide
DB
receiver
too.
corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I seen him. Um, but so with the U.S. national flag team, do we want to just reward guys that have built flag up, which is important, I guess, or do we want to spread the game of football internationally and give even more opportunities internationally to guys from our country who dominates the sport and would give guys in our league even more opportunities at a potential payday? Yeah, I was right, 88. A potential payday playing this sport around the world. I think if you put a team together of names, not just able bodies, but names that the entire world recognizes, and watch them on the Olympic stage represent our country and represent the United States, sport in the Olympics, it would have an effect like the 1992 Dream Team did for basketball. You know, if you told me that Lamar Jackson, uh, I hate Tyreek Hill. He punched his pregnant wife, so he can, go scratch. I think I saw Stephon Diggs in between, knocking down all these starlets and dimes that he has on his roster. I think he said that he wants to be a guy, or it might have been Justin Jefferson,
It was Justin Jefferson.
somebody that once wore Vikings colors anyway. Um, having guys like that, and like imagine watching Saquon Barkley, do these ridiculous dips and dives and jump and do a 360 and
Well, look, let's put it this way.
I
I think
tried to move, it didn't work with my phone.
like every major national sport, there should be the not Olympic years where they have national championships of those. And as
Yeah.
Travis has pointed out here on screen, it would be great to actually see the NFL pros who think they're good at flag and can play this game go up against the USA flag team and see how they do. Let's put who wouldn't stop to watch that fucking game? I would probably pay $5 in pay-per-view to see that shit myself, to be honest, but I don't think the NFL wants to allow that because if the flag guys make them look bad, then what happens?
Well, I think that it would be a competitive game for sure. I think that in
Oh shit, Jason
even in
said
the
they did that,
A7FL,
and that's where logo came from.
well, listen, I think that there would be a real competitive game there between guys that were best at flag and guys that were just superiorly athletic. Um, I think that the ability for guys in flag at the quarterback position might separate, because what you're asked to do in flag is kind of the David Tender thing, off balance throws, off the the platform type throws, and being able to be accurate and read, sometimes even quicker than what NFL quarterbacks face.
Wait, Corey, somebody fucking listened to us and actually hit the like button. Thank you, whoever that was, our fifth like of the episode. My God, there's 18 of you listening now. Oh, there's six. Fuck yes, let's get. We started a trend. Let's get up there. There's at least 18 people
It's the
watching.
easiest thing you can do for any YouTube channel. We're
Right.
not asking you to find us on Patreon or some shit. Just press the fucking button anyway. Um, Logo play with the USA team with Matt Riddick. Yeah, and I think
Fuck.
Bagler is probably part of that team too.
Man, I would have loved to have seen that game. There's got to be some footage somewhere where I can see that. That would
I'll
be
pass on
gorgeous.
flag. I'll pass on flag.
You you would pass on watching those guys play against former NFL pros?
Of course not. But
Right.
I'm playing a character here. I can't. I
Right.
can't. I
Ooh,
can't.
we're up to 8. Thank you, everyone. I know I talked a lot of shit. I really appreciate you guys reaching up and hit the like button.
What's
It's
up,
very
Mason?
cool of you. Really appreciate it. Shout out to Mason in the chat. Thank you for being with us today. Again, reach up, hit that like button. For those of you who already did it, super appreciate you. If there's a hate button, you want to press that one, I'm okay with that too. You can press care, you can press cry. I don't care. Just give us some sort of indication that you're paying attention. Thank you, Steve Ashmore, for having us on in the background. Getting that also going too certainly helps, but obviously those likes and comments give us a little more action.
Well,
And
and I
Travis says it's on YouTube. There's no likes. So, oh, it's. Are you saying the likes only come from YouTube, Travis? Is that the deal? Anyway, so back to the conversation about flag. Again, this is Corey Hammond from the East and Derek Duncan from the West filling in for Dub and Chris on the other side of the ball. Dub, shout out to you, man. I hope whatever's going on with you and your people ends
yeah,
up,
definitely.
everyone's at peace at the end of the day. Obviously, if there's something really bad that's happened, everyone's not going to come out good, but I hope everyone finds peace in their heart. And Chris is on assignment down in wherever he is. I'm not going to say out loud in case someone's casing his house. Shout out to Chris for holding us down usually. And thank you, Corey, so very much for coming on with me tonight and making this show worth listening to with me, or also doing me droning on, asking people to drop in the chat. We were still thinking that we might get a Keno Thomas showing. We got 13 minutes left in the show to talk about what the game that was. And there's DP walking off into the end zone on that replay. I'm going to try to find the Insomniac game here because we've been giving each of the games that was aired a little love, and we haven't done that one yet. So bear with me. Uh, so Logo and Mac Riddit played together. I would have absolutely loved to see that. Thank you for putting me onto that. If anybody has any links on any of that, I would love to see that one day. So, oh, Kenny Mac says he'll hop on. So, Mac, give me a second. I'm going to put a link in the chat for you. Let's chop it up. Oh, that's the wrong one. Hang on a second.
Yeah, and I'm still here. I'm just walking around, so I'm
Okay,
just.
no sweat, no sweat. Let me find my guy Kenny Mac real quick. Send him a quick message. Get him an invite. Boom, boom. That should be it. Oh no, that's. I don't think that's it. That looks like a Zoom call. What the
Here,
fuck is that?
so while you figure out, let me just kind of
Kenny, don't click
filibuster
that.
here.
Hang on a second. Go ahead. Yeah, what's that? Go
So
ahead.
we got Keno too, because I think before we get Kenny Mack on, because I think it would be interesting for me because as I've been kind of active playery this year, even more so than normal because I haven't been calling as many games because of the unique situation. I have missed some of the scouting that I would do for the games that I'm calling, trying to scout the teams that I'm playing. But I would want to get Kenny Mack's opinion on his team as somebody who when he steps away from it, he can be a little bit intellectual and kind of break it down and kind of look. He's not just going to get on here and just cliche talk shit. He's going to give us a little bit of a breakdown because I think that it's interesting where the Insomniacs are at currently, because look, they're walking through the Vegas division, and some would potentially make the argument that it's because the division itself has fallen down a little bit. And I honestly don't know if that's what I'm seeing, or if what I'm seeing is that the Insomniacs, with some of their additions, have actually elevated their own play, which has it's not that the division itself is falling in talent. It's that the team at the top kind of accelerated upward, which is not necessarily what we always see from a two-time champ going for their third. A lot of times that winning, forever deodorant almost eventually becomes a net negative when you win as consistently as the Islamics have. It almost becomes something that you look at and you say, oh, I kind of wish they had a little bit more motivation, also
Yeah, I
known
mean,
as last year in the regular season losing to Sick with it and then turning it on after that game in a very impressive way. So if we can get
well,
Kenny
look,
Mack.
I've been obviously fortunate to watch every single game out of the Vegas division, and I will say that both are right. I think the Vegas division across the board has gotten stronger. The Hunters and the Gold are a much better team this season than they had in any previous season. And the guys who are at the top tell us that they feel it on the field, that these guys are onto something. They're missing pieces, but things have gotten much better and they've gotten much more competitive. I think Sick did take a step back. The Force leaving left the Stealth in that position, and they've not. They might be as good as the Force were last season, which the Force weren't really. I mean, they were talked about. They were competitive in games, but they weren't a force in the Vegas division. So I think the first 5, 6 games of the season, Sick wasn't where they were last year. Not having Jeremy Geary, even if they have Deion Fox, which you said you wanted to come back to, and we haven't touched on that yet.
Yeah,
What hadn't been as good as they were before on the offensive side of the ball. I think they may have gotten a little better on the defensive side of the ball. They definitely have more weapons at the wide receiver position. They filled in a little better at the running back position, but the Insomniacs have gotten so much better. It looks bad for everyone. I mean, the couple new pieces they got, Big Mac, it's on your Facebook. Both Mac and Kino, I sent you guys both invites on Facebook. It's the Facebook link. I sent you both. So go to your Facebook, click on that link. My bad, I didn't say that. So, but yeah, so the Insomniacs, the pieces that they've added, like the fact that they added a player like Moses and he has replaced Mouth as the starting defensive end and has Chris Cunningham waiting in the wings, two guys that were talked about as potential DPOYs. Uh, and Kenny Mac, there's two links. One's a Zoom, the second one that says Facebook. That's the one to hit. Um, so that's my assessment personally. I'm going to go try to fix this thing with Kenny right now.
yeah, and I think it's interesting because really the final score of games in the A7FL isn't always telling of how competitive each team is, in the real situation, because the what tells me is that the 20-20, a team like the Gold, 2 years ago, last year, they're three and outs all game. They're on the field for one or two or three plays max on defense. That's why there's a huge difference, from then till now, because now you watch the Gold in between the 20s, even against the teams like Sickwit, even against the Insomniacs at times, they can get a little bit of a sustained drive. They can get a chunk of yardage here, a chunk of yardage there. Now, some of these elite teams, once you get in the red zone, it's almost impossible to score against, because now the field's shrunk and there's no way for you to get that play that you got, when you were on your own 34 with 66 yards to go. You have enough space to figure something out. Now you're in the red zone. That's one of the hardest places to score. You may not yet score if you're the Gold against the Insomniacs, but if you're moving the ball consistently, that's what extends the game. A B, it also makes the game feel like more of a game, that the Insomniacs, that stick with it, etc. They actually have to show up once they get to the red zone, and they're like, all right, we got to buckle down, make sure that we don't allow the score here. So that's what I've seen at times. And shout outs to Kenny Mack
Live
in
and
the
direct,
flesh.
straight out of
Yo,
Macktown Exotics is our guy,
straight
number
out of the
one
back
lineman,
cave.
Kenny Mack. What's up, buddy?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Not bad, man. I'm just watching your boy Oos do a little chicken dance on the screen here.
Oh yeah,
Just
my
missed
boy, man. He did. They did their thing last weekend, man. I wasn't able
yeah,
to
I
be
mean,
there.
they did all that without you at the helm. You were you have some coaching you were doing this last weekend?
Yeah, man. My youth team had their our first workouts, and the only day that everybody's free is on Sunday. So I had to sacrifice playing against my brothers in the Hunters, to go hold my tryouts.
All right. Well, look, we only have you for a limited time. Thank you for popping on with us. I think, Corey, unless you have something specific, I wanted to ask you, give me your assessment, not of the Insomniacs this year, because we'll follow up with that if we still have time, but your assessment of the other teams in the Nevada division, what you've seen on the defensive line trenches, and then standing on the sideline when you're on defense. What are they bringing that's different from last year, or is it the same old stuff that it's not any better? What's your real thought?
Um, man, to be honest, everybody Everybody, grab me the battery. Everybody has got better um, in the aspect of playing football and trying to add pieces that they were missing. I would say that the games have been a bit funner. The final score doesn't tell because we are who we are, but the games have been funner for the most part than they have been. Um, and I can honestly say that everybody has got way better this season. And I think that a couple teams are like a couple like main pieces off from being able to play with anybody on this side and being able to try to go compete and do their thing in the playoffs.
All right, now I'm gonna drop some names on you. Talk to me about Prime, Shannon Allen, and about Big Moses. Like those two guys. I mean, obviously you added other pieces with Carswell and guys like that, but those two guys are both rookies, never been seen on the field before in A7, and dominant at their position to the point where they've supplanted previous All Stars in our division. Tell me about both those guys.
Um, Moses is a fucking trench baby. Um, and it's hard for if you don't have a motor, you're not gonna be able to block them because it's like blocking two AJs. Their motors are undeniable. They just go and go and go and go and go and go.
As AJ
Um,
just scored the touchdown on our television right now with
yep. So
Moses in the background.
it's hard. It's hard for teams to be able to be like, I don't know what's up with this shit, ho. Oh, my bad. I'm working on my son's car. It's hard to, it's hard to compare them to anybody besides AJ. Well, as far as Moses on that D line, and then Shannon. Bro, he's just that little motherfucker's just a dog, bro. He just wants to play football. That's
Yeah,
the
so I've had a
that's
little
the
time to communicate with Shannon. We actually exchanged numbers after the last game. What a good person. Oh, here's our guy Keno Thomas. Let me let him in the chat real quick while we still have some
yeah.
time.
He's a solid kid, man. That's the DM monster right
I mean, dude is reaching out to me for hydration tips. Like,
there.
I love seeing stuff like that out
We
of
got we
guys
got
in our league. Welcome to
Prime,
the show,
Prime is
Keno Thomas.
Shannon
Yo, how
Prime,
y'all doing?
aka DM God, the DM bully.
I love it. I love it. Keno, welcome, welcome, man. Tell us about a little bit about your game last week. Just a quick overview. What'd you
Uh,
see good? What'd you see bad?
First off, appreciate y'all for having me on here again.
Well, Keno,
Uh,
you know I got mad love for you and the family, brother. It's great to see you on here. Sorry the season didn't work out the way you wanted to in the end, but great to have
yeah,
you around.
Just don't
yeah, I
work.
appreciate that. But
Please.
far as good, um, really we played all 4 quarters. Like we really didn't give up. That was the biggest thing the whole season. Like we played solid against the Jersey teams in the first half, and then kind of crumbled in the second half against Jersey teams. Um, we made a lot of good plays on both sides of the ball. We made a lot of good plays, offense and defense. Um, yeah, that's pretty much the good. The bad, I didn't really. I feel like I did what I could, but I didn't really capitalize as many times as I should have to pull off the win. Like I was missing. Like it was 25. The wind was 25 miles per hour, but I was missing a lot of key throws. We had a like they secondary wasn't really covering our guys. They was open. I missed a lot of key throws. We had some key drops and our 3-on-1 coverage. Like our 3-on-1 coverage was not good.
Yeah, that's where it fell down for us watching them from a spectator standpoint. And thank you for bringing that up. Usually, the biggest I don't know, learning curve of guys playing A7, even if they're good on offensive defense, is covering that special teams, specifically the 3-on-1. You know, the
Yeah.
Force, a very good team full of a lot of talented guys. They got out to Jersey, faced BIC, and they had no answer for the BIC 3-on-1 the first time we saw it. So it's
Yeah.
the biggest learning curve. There's no way to really practice it if you haven't played against guys who have done it. Uh, I,
I
since I
mean,
got you, I'm going to be
shit. We
self.
can't if we're gonna talk about 3-on-1s and we have Kenny Mack on. It's not just experience because if New Jersey guys are letting Danye Lyons circle button and accelerate the way that they did with the game on the line, really the 3-on-1 a lot of times just comes down to the superior execution. And what Kyle
Yeah,
Ward did is he didn't do what Ashante Worthy and some of the really talented guys get caught in the trap of, where it's they try to hesitate and then accelerate. Kyle
yeah,
Ward just got that thing, hit it with a baby juke, made the
and
first
took
man miss,
off.
played
And took off.
basketball with another dude's head, no disrespect, and then all of a sudden, shit, right?
Nah,
Um,
he definitely took off. And then
so
another
I don't
thing
think that
though, another thing,
Drew Ruffin's a good player. And
yeah,
I saw another guy out there, number 9, that is a very good player. And sometimes Kyle Ward, a guy like that, shout outs to him, by the way.
yeah, he
He
definitely nice.
doesn't get as much attention, I think, that he does, because he's not as, vocal about his abilities. It spoke volumes on all of those touchdowns that he scored.
Yeah,
And again, just to keep the troll going,
Yeah.
all
Well,
all touchdowns scored by the mighty TMU flag team were A7FL vets, and especially in crunch time.
oh, good point.
yeah,
Interesting. Well, look, we got a unique situation where we got the former Chaos player and current QC Crush and Kenny Mack, who faced off in the Final Four in Ohio 2 years back on the Insomniacs' first run to the chip. Kino, what do you see different out of the QC Crush this year as far as your roster and how you guys were competitive in the Jersey division or playing against the Northeast, the tried and true Northeast, versus what you saw from the Insomniacs team that came into Jersey and ended up mercy ruling you guys? What, looking at your roster now, how did it stack up against what it was then? And what did you see talent wise or strength wise, Jersey versus Vegas?
um, that's a good question. So for one, that was our first year for real, so we didn't really understand the game as much when we played Vegas. So it was kind of it was definitely a learning experience, and y'all kind of y'all kind of had some type of experience under y'all belts with the fall brawl, so y'all had an understanding of the game a little bit more than us.
Don't use a different one because obviously that one's not working.
Y'all Vegas compared to Jersey, like it's the way y'all adjust to the game. Like y'all adjust, from my experience, y'all adjust quicker than some of the other teams that we played. And
What
like
what,
the
what
defense,
about
like
what?
the rush, the pass rush, y'all like the first year y'all pass rush was a little faster. But far as the talent on our team, I feel like the Chaos team from year one and year two was a little bit more talented than the Crush team.
Oh, that's
But
interesting. Okay.
we didn't really, with the Crush, like we had talent, but it was more so of us trying to get an understanding how to play with each other, build that
Yeah.
chemistry. Like it was chaos, then it was heist, and then we had a sprinkle of crush players in us. So it was like we just put together three teams and we trying to figure it out together. So it was
Well,
like
But that just come. I feel like because if you think about it, then Insomniacs was a couple teams put together too, and I didn't play for none of those teams, so I
yeah,
feel like we just gel a little bit faster than everybody else because
hmm,
I think the football IQ helps bring everything together a little faster because we all can understand what we're saying. When we
yeah,
break it down into football language, everybody can talk that same language. There's nobody
Well,
that
facts.
feels left out.
I think more than anything, the difference between teams in the A7FL, in the NFL, in college football, it, that Kenny Mack is coaching, kids. When you have a superior offensive line, it makes the
That too.
athletes that you have be able to do the things that they're normally capable of doing in all other aspects of football. So it's interesting having Keno on. Keno, you remember in the beginning of the season we had a really relatively brief message conversation, and
Yeah,
I don't want to make it too negative, but you guys were really confident coming into the season and how you would be able to match up against the Northeast. And I think
yeah,
the gelling thing, you could tell by the end of the season, both games against the Renegades showed that the Crush were a serious team. But when you look at the teams that win the championship in the A7FL, It's teams like the Insomniacs with Kenny Mack and Oos and Schwank. It's teams like BIC with Dave Valley and Big Dippy and K-Wack for all his ridiculous
Yeah.
cliches and catchphrases. Or when the Patterson U won it, there's 5 guys on their sideline that are over 6'3", 310 pounds that can move. So I think that's huge. But I
Yeah.
also think that when Keno preseason said, I think we're going 5-2, he wasn't that far off. But I think if the Crush were able to play the entire season starting right now,
Yeah.
knowing who everybody is, knowing everybody's role, I think that they would give a lot of teams a lot of a tough time. And I will say this just to kind of finish the point and then let you guys get a little bit more airtime because I can go another 30 minutes. Now we have 4 people I'll share. One of the biggest shames, in my opinion, in the last decade of watching the A7FL is that we didn't really get to see what the Chaos were able to do last year. I
Right.
don't know what they would have been able to do, Keno, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that Watchmen game would have ended up if you guys would have won definitely or not.
Yeah.
But if what happened didn't happen, I think it would have been a lot more interesting than than you guys kind of having to come together with what you're facing with all 3 teams kind of combining and missing guys. You lost some guys. Some guys are
Yeah.
basically not allowed to ever play again, probably.
Yeah.
But for me, I think that Chaos team was a lot better than we were giving them credit for, and it kind of ties into a question that I have for Coach Mack over here.
They just ran into the wrong dogs at the wrong time.
Well, no, the year 1 they were not as good as
We was
as
better
year
year
2.
two than we was
Yeah,
year one.
definitely better year 2. And everybody was talking about they might have been a top 5 team year
And
2
I
because
would have
of how it
liked
came together.
to see what they could have done. I
Right.
still think
Yeah.
that the 2 teams that ended up in the final were probably still better, but it would have been interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Definitely would have
Um,
been.
but that's them's the breaks, right? But
So
for Coach Mack, I've been watching the Insomniacs, and it's really tough to tell because watching from 3,000 miles away, and it's relatively uncompetitive because of the type of team you guys are. You've already kind of commented on what you've seen around the division from the other teams. How much better are the Insomniacs this year than they were last year?
I'm not gonna say that we're way better than we were last year. I'm just gonna say that what we were missing last year, we went and grabbed it.
Well, what were you missing last year?
The pieces we got. We're not really missing anything, just adding a couple more pieces to the puzzle to give us a little bit more depth.
Yeah, because that's the
Yeah.
thing that becomes the law of diminishing returns in a 7v7 game. How much better can you guys be when last year's roster, especially in the playoffs, when you guys got Danye and Davik back? How much
We could be
better
two.
can you guys
We could be
be?
2-3 touchdowns better.
yeah, so think about it, Corey.
Coming from the coaching aspect, we'll be 2 or 3 touchdowns better.
So just think about it. So Moses replacing Scott McCorkle at the same type of player, younger and faster, and maybe even stronger. That's one piece. Prime as a slot receiver. I don't even know who the Insomniac slot receiver would have been last year, but except for maybe Danye stepping in on both sides of the ball. Now he doesn't have to do that. You let a guy specialize in a position and play it to his fullest extent and don't have to spend energy on both sides of the ball. You're that much better. So, Kenny, I wanted to ask you a similar question on the Chaos. Obviously, you saw what they were this year. I know you guys don't watch a lot of film on a lot of other teams that aren't Silk and BIC, but did you watch any Chaos or Crush games this year? And did you see a big difference in what you faced the first year out there?
To be honest, we watch everybody's games.
Okay.
We all in the we share that shit in the chat as soon as the shits go live. We watch everybody play before us. We watch everybody's games, from the sorriest, shittiest games to the best games of the A7FL. We watch them all. We don't miss no games. We watch all the film. But I'm gonna say that I feel like No, you can't ask me that, man, because then I'm gonna seem like an asshole.
Nah,
Well,
go
he
ahead.
well he said that he thought the Crush was better than
I
the Chaos was better in their first 2 years than this Crush team.
yeah, I feel like um they're just not. I feel like they're just a bottom under Tim team.
Mm.
So I put them in the top 10 easy. I put them
My
in the
per,
top 10 easy.
my
They're
personal
beat.
opinion.
I think they're beating the gold. They're beating the hunter, but they're on par with maybe a step below the stuff is where I
Well, there's
put
15. There's 15 teams, so I mean, top
right.
10 is really not extended. Um, I think what the Crush did against the team that people respect a little bit in the Renegades showed that they're for real, and I think that they can build and
Oh
get
yeah,
better.
and it showed that they weren't back down though too. They
Look,
they they
For
coming
the
to play
sure.
ball too.
the
You ain't just gonna
Well,
thing,
punch them in the
especially
mouth.
because the travel factor is huge in the A7FL,
facts, yeah.
and getting to New Jersey. But the other thing that I think was interesting, and I think the Ohio can build off of it. And this is almost like a cliche, like the West Coast is fast and fair weather, and the Midwest is blue collar, right? Like that. That's just garbage, like poor analysis. But what I have known from the beginning of the Ohio division is the kind of inherent toughness that those guys have. And what was interesting to see in the game against the Renegades, which when you look at them just standing on the field against the Crush, they tower over them and are bigger and look stronger in a lot of the more important, bigger and stronger positions. But when it came down to it, the fourth and shorts, no question the Crush were getting them at a certain point in the game.
That's
What
interesting.
and then when it was second and goal after what we thought should have been probably a touchdown because there wasn't definitive evidence after Keno got in the first time.
Yeah. Walked in
They,
there.
they didn't they didn't stand a chance in stopping the Crush on the goal line in that situation. So one of the things that I was teasing earlier is that TMU flag. And by the way, Gallardo, I know that Kyle Ward plays with those guys. But you're talking about a 7-year vet in the A7FL. If he's TMU, fine, but he's not a flag guy. He's a football player. Football players can play flag. Let's be clear, right?
Mhm.
Um, what I saw is that the kind of want to in the grittier, nastier parts of the game at times, those enormous guys for the Renegades did not play as big as they were. And in open field tackle situations on guys like Q Vaughn, which say what you want about the guy. He's not my favorite quarterback in the league, but he's a big ass dude that you got to bring down. Or even in the shifty situations with guys like Ametrius, Digimon Go, and Keno Thomas.
Look, Digi was dope that game. I only got to see like about a quarter and a half because we were watching him while we were getting ready for our game. But that's a guy who I got focus on for next year. But Corey, I want to get into it with these guys a little bit. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
so Keno, for yourself, man, a quick summary of the season that was being able to jump from playing just in the Ohio division to having to travel, and then what do you want for yourself and for the Midwest divisions this coming season? Give me that one.
So, um, I was really like, it's unfortunate that everything happened the way it did with the Midwest, with the teams folding and all, and we had to combine for one team. But it actually worked out because it gave us a look and a taste of how it is to play over East or play the East Coast and what it takes to play against the East Coast. And to be honest, like I would want to keep playing in the Midwest, but I want to keep the same schedule. To be honest, I want to keep playing against the East Coast. That's just my opinion because when it comes to playing in the Midwest, like the past 2 years, it was only our only comp was playing the Heights when I was with the Chaos, and that was maybe one, two games a year. But other than that, we was running through everybody else. So playing comp week in and week out, that's what I'm really looking forward to. So if we can have the same schedule or more travel games or mix in some of the East Coast or even Vegas, like that's what I'll be looking for. But the season, I feel like we would have had a better season if we would have figured it out a little sooner. And then like injuries hit us. we start losing gas to semi-pro because semi-pro season started hitting. So we have to really figure out where to put guys, and then coaching played a part because it was personnel issues and just players wanting to put in the effort to protect me, to throw the ball, protect the, you know what I'm saying, quarterback, the running backs. Like the whole season, we didn't have time to
Sound
throw
like
the
y'all need a
ball
full
pretty
rebuild.
much. We didn't have time to really throw the ball that much. We didn't have the time for me to even hand the ball off at times. So, um, we definitely gonna rebuild on the line.
Now
As
So Jason asked a great
put
question,
Mama.
Keno, as a follow up question. Your rebuild, are you going to rebuild with a crush or are you going to try to do something different?
oh no, I'm with the crush.
All right, that's good. I love that loyalty. Having a foundation and being able to build around something special, like a piece like
Yeah,
yourself, is what it takes for a team to make that jump, man. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for that insightful answer. That's kind of, I wasn't sure where that was going to go, and I love hearing that, and love hearing it from a baller like you.
Yeah.
You know, I want the comp, man. I want to be able to still travel and play these better teams so we can see where we stand. Playing
facts.
cupcake games every week is not where a real football player wants to be. And I'm
Nah,
sure the
no.
Insomniacs would tell you they'd rather have a game that went down to the wire every game than
Where's
these
he at?
blowouts. But they're going to do what they have to do.
Well, and shout outs
Exactly.
What up,
to
brother?
Mama Thomas, the Mama Crush in the chat. That was Queen right there. That's somebody that Keno probably knows pretty well.
Yeah, that's my dude. Shout out to my dudes.
Yeah. Um.
You know I'm
Number
a
one
fan.
supporter.
She's the one that
So
introduced me to you, Keno. That's a good woman right there.
Yeah, that's
so it's
my number one
interesting. It's
supporter.
interesting that that Keno kind of went there because I think that's another thing to kind of bring in Kenny Mack on too. Because listen, I've talked to many an insomniac, and I don't think they've ever in any way, shape, or form duck any kind of wreck. I think the saddest thing of our league and things that we're trying to work towards is trying to get matchups like that earlier on and more consistently, not just so that guys like Kenny Mack can enjoy themselves, which is important to me, but so that the fans get that enjoyment out of what everyone obviously wants. And it's from the Keno Thomases of the world that want to compete, and from the Mama Thomases of the world that want to watch great football. I think that's something that, if we continue to build together all divisions across the board, including the teams that, it might be easier to not drive out to Ohio, Patterson U. or it might be just a less embarrassing situation to show up for a game. Vegas Gold last year, not this year. The quit that I see in our league is probably the worst thing for the fans, the players, and for guys like Derek, because one of the biggest embarrassments of this season was the absolute bullshit from the Watchmen BIC game. And if we get that stuff out, we do inch closer to giving guys like Keno and guys like Kenny a matchup at least every other week that
Right.
the fans can go home, sit down, grab beverages and snacks, and literally just consume with just nothing but endorphins. Because when
That's a beautiful sentiment. And real quick, just a quick
Derek,
reset.
can I
With
say
us,
four
Keno
things first out
Thomas,
here, Derek?
with us, Kenny Mack, with us, Corey Hammond, and Derek Duncan filling in for Dub and Chris. Kenny, I want to give you the floor. Let you say whatever it is you want to say, and then we're gonna get out of here because it's late.
I just got four things to say. First things first. Remember, I told you guys, Davik is going to be playoffs and championship game MVP.
You
That's one.
did.
Two, Insomniac's going for the three-peat. Three, Shop Indy. Shout out to Tay. Shop Indy, my dog. And four, I'm looking for sponsors for Vegas Strong 13 Youth. So if you want to sponsor some football boys, jump in my inbox, man. I'm going to work something out. And that's it.
Mac, you know what I need for that. You and I need to finish our little thing so I can drop you some money.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Keno. What do you have to finish up with, sir?
Um, I don't know. Well, I just pretty much all the teams that's still in the playoffs. Hope y'all have a good season. Stay healthy. Um, I'll be looking forward to the matchups and the schedules next year. And I don't really got no dog in this fight, but what I really want to see, I want to see a matchup in Insomniacs BIC or Insomniacs Animals. Not gonna lie, not
Who
gonna
you
lie.
got winning it
That's
all?
Not the Watchmen, huh?
who I got winning it all. I don't know. I don't got no dog in the fight. It's gonna be a good game. Either one gonna be a good game for sure. Either one gonna be a good game.
Fuck that, Keno. Say what you feel. Who gonna win the game?
That's how I feel.
No, Keno. Hey, right now, Insomniacs versus Animals. Who you got?
I got
Fuck
a
all that
high
breathing. Who you
look.
got?
I got a high scoring game. I don't know who, but somebody might walk off with a receiving touchdown or a three on one touchdown, bro.
That's that's
Either,
that that's anything. You can't. That's too vague. Who gonna win the fucking game?
bro. I don't know. Y'all two good teams,
Don't
bro.
bully that man into an
I
answer.
don't
All
He's
know.
right, all
well
right.
No,
So let me
media
ask you
trained.
this:
hang on a second.
He is
Insomniacs
media trained
BIC. Who
so well
win?
right now.
You said
Insomniacs
what?
BIC. Who win?
Insomniacs BIC. I don't know, cause if you want
Keno,
to be
Keno,
real, bro,
A
it look,
BIC team that's adding Mark Bagway.
bro, look, they got Bagway.
Yeah,
I
That's
really don't give
crazy.
a fuck about how they
I know
add
you don't.
Bagway at the end of the season. Can I add somebody at
Look
the end of the
though.
season too?
I'm gonna just say this: it could have went either way last year too,
Can I
but
add somebody?
Danye,
Can I
bro,
add somebody to my Insomniac roster then since they added
Danye
Bagway?
crazy, bro.
Unfortunately, no. We've tried everything we could, Kenny. We're stuck where we're at.
I don't
Oh
know
well,
though.
I don't
It's
give
gonna
a
be a
fuck
good
anyway. I
game.
was just gonna add a water boy.
Right.
Bagway's not that big of a deal to us. But y'all
So,
beat
all
He
him.
right.
might not be, but he raw though.
Yeah,
Game
he is
recognized
raw.
game. He raw.
Cor- Corey,
Yeah,
what do you have to add to the
he is raw.
ending of this show?
Well, and shout outs to Kenny Mack, and he's on his way out. I would love for him to stay. So if I pick against the Insomniacs, I have the gumption to do it in his face.
You're a
Um,
villain. You're never going to do that.
oh no, I mean that's sarcasm. Listen, Bagway, Deontay Henderson, Logo Davis. If they're all on the roster for BIC, that sounds great. But I think the difference is they need Dave Allen.
Dog walk the animals.
They need Big Dippy. It's the offensive line for BIC that separates them and gives them a chance against a team like the Insomniacs. And I think where the Insomniacs improved, it, is it going to make a difference specifically against BIC where they have a nastier D line for sure. But if there's a team that has a defensive line neutralizer type of player, it's Terry Codrington, because when you do pursue for a sack, you leave yourself vulnerable to maybe his worst, like the worst case scenario for your defense and his best weapon.
Right.
So I think that's going to be,
Yeah.
if they play, that's going to be the interesting matchup there. And if the Animals really, if BIC doesn't have the offensive line, and the Animals are able to somehow pull off an upset in what would be the Northeast Championship, or let's talk about the Final Four when that gets situated in that group chat or whatever. Um, I don't know. The Animals to me surprised me when I don't give them maybe enough credit. I think, but are they capable of beating a team like BIC or like the Insomniacs? Because they beat the Watchmen. That's a team.
Yeah.
The Watchmen are nobody's Insomniacs, and the Watchmen are not BIC. Tender in the game this year against BIC played as well as anybody could, and it still was not enough. If they somehow make it past BIC for whatever reason, I don't know if the D line offensive line combination for the Animals sizes up equally to what you would expect from the Insomniacs, and I think
Well,
that's
here's the
going to be
situation. The way it's going down is Silk isn't going to have a chance to play BIC. They're going to play either the Insomniacs or sick with it, and then they would potentially play BIC in the championship. So the way shit's shaping up, they don't got to worry about that. They only got to worry about
Well,
what they're going to see in
I
Vegas.
think the 1 seed plays sick with it, correct?
Correct. So
So
that would
I
be
think
BIC versus
BIC,
sick.
no disrespect to my guys that sick with it. I think BIC is going to take care of sick with it. Not that sick with it is not good. I do not think that they stand toe to toe with a team like the Insomniacs and BIC and are able to consistently be better for 4 quarters. I think that that's not a blowout or an 80-0 or some kind of embarrassment for sick with it. But I also, in the same vein, I don't think that the animals really can deal with the David Tender. Look at him. Delulu. Man, get on the field first. I asked if you were
All
healthy in
right.
that Facebook post. You said you were fine.
All right.
I saw IG live at quarterback. But I'll say this right now. I don't think that the animals beat the Insomniacs. But I know the Insomniacs can't wait to play a team like the Animals because the Animals are a very special team.
They're for real, and
They
everything
nice.
that the Insomniacs want to see to show whether they can put up against them or not. So I'm going to go ahead and start winding this down. I want to say thank you so much, Kino, for popping in, Queen for jumping in with us in the chat, for DT3 jumping on last minute saying what's up. Appreciate you, brother. Matt Ryan, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here for us. For Corey Hammond, for Big Kenny Mack, thank you for being on. For Keno Thomas and all of the other side of the ball contributors, Scott Hamilton, Live with 2-5. Big shout out to Dub. Hope everything is great for you at home. Let us know what you think about the new chat feature with the scroll in the corner. Give us a like, give us a share. Thank you guys so much. Corey, thank you for helping me put this thing on tonight, man. I don't know what it would have been without you. And we'll see you on the other side of the ball.
Appreciate y'all.
2 weeks. Get ready.
All right, I hit the end stream button. I don't know what happened. I think that just ends it. I don't know.
I think if you press X.
Oh, no, it's still